Welcome back to the Construction Veteran Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friend. If you're watching this on YouTube, just like Pinocchio said, I'm a real boy. So appreciate those of you guys tuning in on YouTube. If you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, please check out the YouTube channel. The intent is to start putting out more content that's video. This is going to be a series I like to call the Monday Musings. So these are just going to be things that I think about within the industry that come up. So I'm coming to you live from our friend family homestead. It's a beautiful, little chilly day south of Dallas, Texas. I'd like to apologize for the yippy dog on the other property. If you're lucky, you might hear some goats, you might hear some horses, you might hear some other animals, donkeys, whatnot. So so it's a little windy out here, so apologize for that. But I wanted to come to you from my environment, where I'm comfortable at. So today's Monday Musing, we're going to talk about the different roles within military engineering and options for you when you get out. So this will help folks that are already in the industry, maybe looking to forward their career or move on to the next step maybe, or maybe they're in a position that they're not quite sure if this is what they want to do for the rest of their career and they want to see the options that are out there. This is also for maybe some of you that are interested in going into the service, into military engineering, or you're looking for that transition out. So you've already heard from some of our guests that do not have a background within engineering in the service, and they've become very successful in what they do in the construction industry and design industry. So first I want to talk about what I know. That's the CVs, right? So the Naval Civil Engineer Corps, that's the officer side. So these are folks that come from a myriad of different backgrounds of engineering. You got electrical. I had an officer I worked with that worked in robotics. He had his engineering degree, mechanical, electrical, all that. So these folks become the leadership on the officer side for the Civil Engineer Corps, commonly known as the CBs, which comes from Construction Battalion. Then you've got the enlisted side. So we're the folks actually swinging the hammers, hooking the wires up together, getting it done. So a CB battalion, and this is pretty similar to the other branches and their engineering divisions, if you will. So the CBs especially are trained to go in. We could do recon on an area. We can set up a perimeter and our own security, and we can basically build a mini city or a camp. So we go in and build whatever folks need. We went in, I'm just thinking back to my own deployments. We went in and set up shower tents, sleeping quarters, watchtowers, logistics areas, storage, anything you can think of. We basically built it just like you would a house. So it's stick framing. We're bringing in power. Maybe it's working off of generators. You're bringing in HVAC, plumbing, anything that they need, so we can make it happen. So the other branches have similar, but the other branches, will also use munitions sometimes too. So that's they might build it up, but they're also going to blow some stuff up. So you've got Marine Corps combat engineers, Army combat engineers. You've got Red Horse in Air Force, and I'm sure they've got more and more and more where that comes from. So you kind of get an idea of what they can do in the service, right? The military is supposed to be like a self-sustaining community. So you got everything you can think of. You got HR. You've got all these other jobs out there. So within the engineering community, they have whatever you can think of on the civilian side. They've got it. You might have to go to specialized training for it. A good example would be the UCT, which is the Underwater Construction Team. So those are CBs that have gone to dive school and they've received specialized training on how to do their jobs underwater. So you're talking underwater welding, maybe concrete pouring, inspections, things like that. So there's a lot within the service community that's engineering. So let's talk about when you get out. So say you're that service member that's ready to get out. Maybe you do, maybe you don't have a background in engineering. You'll start to hear from a lot of our guests how they got into the industry. So man, the possibilities are just endless, how you can get there. I would say the one thing to keep in mind is networking. Use the people that you know, use the people that have gone the path before you, get a mentor, listen to this podcast. There's so many things that you can do to get into this industry. I'd say be humble and come in and find somebody that you can learn from. So if you want to go into the government side of engineering, man, you've got State Department Overseas Building Operations, which is who I had as a client before. You've got the Corps of Engineers, that's the Army Corps of Engineers. You got NAVFAC, that's Naval Facilities. So that's if you want to stick with the government side. If you want to get into the private sector, which is what I do, and what a majority of the construction industry is, or design industry, man, that's where just the world is your oyster. There's plenty of ways to get involved. You can always reach out to me. I'm real big about connecting people, because somebody gave me an opportunity, and somebody wants to give you that opportunity too. You don't have to have come from a branch of engineering within the military to get into this industry. And I can tell you, it's, again, you're going to hear me preach time and time again how viable this can be. It's such a good industry for us to transition into from any branch of the service. So we've heard from special operations that transferred into this. I've mentored folks that come from an HR background that come into this, that just want to get exposure to this industry. So if you're a young cat, guy or girl, that is thinking about the service, or even an older cat, right? If you're still within that age range, and you're thinking about, hey, I want to serve my country, but I really enjoy building stuff. That is what it was for me. I enjoyed stepping back and saying I built that. That meant a lot to me. I would encourage you to, one, talk to a recruiter, but also talk to some folks within that industry, or some of us that have come from that side of the service, because we'll tell you the true ins and outs and some of the opportunities that are out there. Within the Seabees, at least, I can speak to that, to where you have builders, which is what I was, and we basically do everything from the ground up for the structure of some sort of facility or building, right? So we're pouring the concrete after the EOs, which is the equipment operators, go out and dig it, and the UT, which is the utilities men, they put the underground utilities in. That might be plumbing, and then you got the CEs, the construction electricians, they're laying the conduit, bringing the power up. So the builders are going back, and we're builders, right? We're builders by trade, so we build. So we go, and it seems really basic, right? We build, but we go back, pour the concrete. We set up some sort of a foundation, and we start coming up with the structure, and we go with our brother and sister Seabees, and we start building the electrical that's going to feed the building, the plumbing that's going to go into the building. But the builder side too is we're closing up those walls. We're putting the finishes on the walls. So I had an opportunity and did a job at the Washington Naval Yard where we renovated a few bathrooms. So you had some builders in there, utilities men. So we're going in, tearing up the tile, redoing all of that. So the utilities men are obviously doing the plumbing fixtures. The builders are going in, doing all the tile. We're setting up the toilet accessories, so the partitions, and soap dispensers, all the Division 10 stuff. Division 10, if you want to find out more about that, Google it. All the divisions within the construction field. So I got a lot of good exposure to the residential codes and the residential side of things before I got into the commercial side of the industry. So I had a good base coming out. So if you have a plan of attack that, hey, maybe you're getting out of high school, or maybe you're younger in your career and you think, I just want to do, get some good training out, consider it your apprenticeship. You go into the service for 4 years, you do your apprenticeship, you get out, and depending on how much time you spent and how many hours you logged, you can get out like me. I was a journeyman carpenter. You might get out, I had friends that got out as journeyman electricians and plumbers, and then they can go get some more time in and then test for their masters. Once you get your masters, you can open up a company yourself. Now, the laws are different state to state. For example, within the state of Texas, you do not have to have a license to be a general contractor. Whether I agree with that or not, it's a story for another day. Virginia, for example, at least when I lived up there, you did have to test for your general contractor's license. Obviously, within the trades, electrical, plumbing, you have to have a journeyman's license. If you want to open your own business, you have to have a master's license. So you're the person, once you reach that master's level, you get to go out and you pull the permits now. So you're not working for a company that has a master electrician or a master plumber, that one person is able to pull the permit. You can now do that. So you can go out and chase your own work. Now, I think it's a very viable way of making money for your family. And, if you've got that entrepreneur heart, go out and do it, man. I mean, there's so much opportunity within the building industry. And you heard on my episode with Dan Lombardo, we've gotten to this point in time where people need that. People need folks who know how to work with their hands and build things and get things fixed and get it done. It's I feel like it's a lost art almost. So I would encourage you to do that. So back to what I was saying, if you want to go in and get your time in, get out as a journeyman, rock on, do it. Of course, there's going to be an opportunity you might have to go on deployment, right? That's kind of to be said with military service. I will tell you this though, the Seabees, at least when we're overseas and we're performing our job, it's just a whole nother level of danger, of excitement, of teamwork, and there's no, well, my products didn't arrive on time, I can't get it done. You make it get done. You make it happen. Whatever you got to do. So sometimes the work's not the prettiest, but man, it works. So if you got a SEAL team flying in, I'll give you an example. Me and a few other guys, shout out to Randy, we're still friends today. He was an electrician on this group of 4 guys we had. We had dev group coming into a site, camp we were at. And there's no, oh, well, my product's not in, or, oh, I couldn't get this done, a tool broke. Man, when these guys are coming in, we're supporting their mission. We have to get it done. There's no other option. So we had this Chinook coming in. I mean, they were, I want to say a few days inbound, or outbound, or inbound, I guess. So they were a few days out from coming in, and man, come hell or high water, we had to get that done. So I'll share a quick story from that. I can remember we took mortar fire during that time trying to get ready for the group, and I'm hanging off of a, we were building a security shack basically for some of the guards, and we're doing the final touches. This is the longest work day I ever had. It was 27 hours. Some folks have heard me talk about that, and I'm talking straight labor. So we're exhausted, and halfway through we started taking mortar fire, and I'm hanging off from a corrugated sheet roof, trying to drill in, and we eventually got more support to get it done so we can make sure we got it in time. So we had about 10 more guys that flew out from Bagram to join us on that fob, and I was like, man, we got to go to shelter. And he said, I don't care. The scout ranks me. It's like, keep going. And so we, it was crazy. There was concertina wire below me, and I'm thinking, man, if I let go of this, I'm going to get tangled up and I'm going to be hurt. But we got it done. Thankfully, no injuries, or no major injuries. The one thing that did happen is when we were all said and done, I told the guys, hey, go ahead and go to breakfast. I'll see you later. Go get some chow, bring me something back. And I'm ripping sheets of plywood, and I had my safety glasses on, but a piece of plywood decided to jump underneath my safety glasses and hit me in the eye. So I had to go to medical and get that taken care of. It hurt, but I was just more exhausted and upset that happened at the last minute more than anything. So it was frustrating, but I share that story because I want to show you guys it's a whole different world building within the service. But at the same time, there's exciting times out in the civilian sector as well. So, man, I get so excited when we're doing concrete pours or you're erecting steel. You got big stuff happening on the job site. Maybe you're flying mechanical equipment with a helicopter up onto a building, or you got cranes set up. And sometimes it's the small stuff. Sometimes it's maybe a product that you haven't seen before, and it's just really neat to see it go together. I can remember, I want to say it's probably 5 years or so, that living walls, stuff like moss in facilities, I feel like that's gotten a lot more popular. So vegetation, things like that. So it was really neat to learn how to do that. So another thing that I love about our industry is you're constantly learning things. There's constantly new technology that comes out, and so you have this opportunity to learn all of that. So I hate when people say we've always done this way, or we've always done something that way. That's really dangerous to hear, because as an industry, we don't advance as fast as a lot of industries out there. However, there are some pretty neat things that come out. And when I say we don't advance, I mean like technology and things like that. But there's always new products coming out. There's always different ways to do things, or maybe new tools. I have some folks on a job I'm working on now, and there's always a struggle where we're cutting drywall constantly to get it on a corner. So you're cutting those two pieces to get that corner right, and then you got to run metal corner bead. And so somebody came up with this really neat tool that we're actually using on our site, where it basically miters. It puts a miter, and a miter is a 45-degree cut into the drywall, but it doesn't cut the paper, so you can fold it. So if you'd like to see pictures of that, I'm going to probably put some up on my LinkedIn at some point, but I thought that was so cool. and it's so efficient, and it makes their job easier. There's a lot of work out there, or positions out there, I should say, that a robot will never take our job. Technology is advancing very fast, but the human element of what we do is very important. This is a very relationship-driven industry. So I obviously would encourage you to get into it. Am I partial to it? Of course. However, that relationship side could carry you in any industry. So, I'll give you an example that maybe there's a subcontractor that you just had a bad go with. You're going to remember that, regardless of whether they're the cheapest one or not. You're going to remember how they performed in the field. You're going to remember, were they safe? Was it quality work? Did they show up on time and get the product delivered and installed when I needed it? Or did they cause a headache for all of the other trades? That happens, I don't want to say a lot, but it does happen. And you remember that. And that feedback from the superintendent goes back to the office. So, I don't want to go off on a trail on that, but I want to focus on, it's a relationship-driven industry. So, back to the original point, a lot of options within the service, a lot of options outside of the service, guys. It doesn't have to be in the actual construction or design side. You can go into the manufacturing side. You might be the one that says, hey, I want to actually physically build that product that they get. I want to be the one that works in the manufacturing side to piece this together to send it out to go to a job site. There's options like that too. Or maybe you want to say, hey, I want to be the guy or girl that checks the quality of that product and that looks at the specifications and makes sure this is meeting the actual specs of what the architect, engineer tells us that what it needs to meet. Or safety, you'll hear me time and time again say that that's such a great transition for folks. And some people, safety gets such a bad rep sometimes. And I hate that. I don't know why, because I think back in the day, maybe there were some really just not nice safety people that made it bad for the rest of us, that were trying to act like the safety police. But nowadays I see a lot of folks within the safety side of things that really just care about people, and they want to make sure they go home at the end of the day. So anyway, all that being said, guys, thanks again for spending some of your time with me. Again, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I encourage you to go to the YouTube, check it out. If there's some subjects that you want me to discuss, let me know. I did start a Patreon. I would encourage you to get on there. If you want to receive a free gift, there's an option there. I've got a hat I recently made. I didn't make it, but I ordered it for the construction vet. I'll post a picture of that. But yeah, guys, I really am encouraged by this community and those of you who have rallied around and supported me. So thank you so much for that. But looking forward to seeing you guys in the next one.